Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to Weekend Wind Down with Business Coach Nancy. Cheers to everyone. I don't know, I'm here with Michele Williams today. Who
Cheers.
Is
I got my Carolina Gamecock water glass.
Okay. I'm the only one drinking wine lately on my Weekend Wind Down, which tells you something. So cheers to the camera.
Cheers.
I am so excited for this broadcast today, Michele, because you're a business coach to interior designers just like I am, and you're a profit first professional. And that's part of what you incorporate in your coaching, which I love. But the thing I wanted to talk about most with you is these personality tests that you turned us on to at High Point Market last year. So I just tell everyone a little story. So we were in a share house, some of people who were speaking and some interior designers. And one night we were all like having heated conversation, right? Wasn't that the night? It was heated conversation. Yeah. And it was Luann and you and me, and then a couple of designers were there. And at one point you said, we should all take the strength. Was it the Strength Finder?
Strength Finder, yeah. Okay. Because that's like my big thing is Strength Finder. And I was like, all right, you all have to take it. Stop right now. Everybody has to take that test.
And I have to tell you, out of the entire
PJs, it was like 11 o'clock at night in PJs, and everybody grabs their phone or grabs their computer. I'm just sitting there watching everybody because, of course, I know mine. And I was telling you all about, okay, I'm saying this and I'm working from this strength, and I'm thinking you're working from a different strength. You need to take that test.
Right. And I think it was so interesting. Let me just say hi to a couple of people who are coming on. As you're coming on, you guys are going to find this fascinating. Wendy was actually there.
She took the test too.
She took the test too. So hi, Melissa. Hi, Stacy. And Wendy, and yes, Wendy, that test was awesome. And it really nailed our personalities, which is what I loved about it. So again, we're like drinking a little wine and we're having heated conversation, and we're all coming at the conversation from a different perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
Right. And you said, like, everyone's got to take this Strength Finders test. And we, some of us started taking it on the side. And I think I was probably a little resistant because I'm thinking, I can't concentrate in this situation. But then when people started taking it and it was nailing their personalities perfectly, I'm like, oh, I got to take this.
Yeah.
And I think what was most fascinating to me is I think we were 3 coaches or presenters and 3 or 4 designers were in the house. Mm-hmm. And when we took the test, I don't remember all the details, but all I remember is our top 5 strengths for you, me, and Luann were basically the same.
Yeah. We had a couple of small differences in there, but it was pretty much like you could tell that. And let me back up and say this. One thing about Strengths Finder is it's not really a personality test. It is truly a strength test. But people tend to lump it in as a personality test. But it doesn't tell you about your personality. What it really tells you about is where your strength lies as you approach things. So what is your initial way of thinking? And why do you think that way? So, some people will say to you and to me, Nancy, both, how do you think that way? And we kept talking about the fact that night that it's so natural to me. I can't not think. Like, I don't stop and think. I think I'll think strategic now. It's just a natural thing that I do. Yes. You have the same kind of natural inclination. Everybody has one. And so anyway, we started going through them. And I was like, I know my top 5 strengths. Do you know your strengths? And then we kept talking about, if you remember, I asked you all to do the full 34 because your bottom 5, and then on my podcast, we've talked about this, but your bottom 5 is where your blind spots are. And so we were talking about things like, well, I don't see that, or I don't understand that, or I don't have time for that. And we were going, well, that's probably because it's in your blind spot. And sure enough, when we did it and we looked at our, the output, we were kind of like, oh, that explains why that's not at the top of my list and not a natural for me. It's in the bottom of my strengths. Everybody, here, I'll show everybody. Look, it might show it backwards. I'm not sure.
No, it's forward.
Okay, it's by Gallup. And I want to say that it was on sale and maybe still is around $50, $49.99. If you own a business though, and you even agreed after you did it, if you own a business, you need to know this. Because what it does is it takes the top 34 strengths that they have found naturally occurring in humans, and it ranks them for you based on the way you answer questions, and shows you what are your top 5 strengths, meaning what do you naturally gravitate towards as your way of approaching things. And so anyway, it was fun. It was, why don't you tell them your top 5?
Okay, so this is, I also want to talk about my bottom 5, because you pointed out so well that I was like, oh my God, my bottom 5. And you're like, that's not your worst traits, it's your bottom 5 strengths. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I remember, and you gave the definition of one of the bottom ones. I remember thinking, oh my God, that's not me. My 34th strength is empathy. And I thought, but I'm very empathetic. And you having the knowledge and having read the book and using this in your coaching with your clients, you understood that the definition of empathy wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because empathy is in my bottom 5. I think it's my 5th from the bottom, like number 29 for me. Mm-hmm. And I knew, because when we were talking, I was like, empathy is at the bottom for you. And some people would take that as I'm being rude, and it wasn't rude. The difference here, it doesn't mean that you're not empathetic, because you are, and so am I. But empathy in this form, it means that we're taking on the weight of everybody else and we're putting it on us. And if I had to walk around as a coach with the weight of every person that I talk to on top of me, as if it were my own pain, I could not function, and neither could you. And so what this says is that we are able to separate, that our first way of thinking is about probably problem solving and not feeling. We're not all in the fields, as they say.
Right.
And so we don't tend to go that way. And so that's what it means. It doesn't mean we cannot be empathetic, but it means we have to think to be empathetic, to not carry the weight of other people.
Well, and I think that's what was so interesting to me, is that as coaches, you, Luann, and I all had that in our bottom 5 strengths. Because like you said, once you explained it to me, because I was like, empathy, no, I'm very
I almost freaked out the first time through, thinking, am I hard-hearted woman? Like, what's my problem? And then when I studied it, I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. Because, I mean, honestly, some of the things we handle are very weighty. I know, working with some of the situations I work with, they're heavy situations, and there are transitions, and there are things that are happening in our lives and our business lives that are devastating. And if I were to hold all of that together with every person I talk to during the week, I would probably need some level of heavy counseling for myself, because it's heavy stuff. And I'm not diminishing it. I'm actually saying it's heavy. So not having empathy as my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 allows me to separate myself to actually see the solution.
Yes.
Because if I were empathizing at that level, if it were my 1, I would feel weighty. I would be in tears. I wouldn't be able to see a solution.
Yeah. And I always describe that to my clients, and with an analogy, like, don't get sucked into other people's tornadoes, right? They start spinning tornadoes with very dramatic, with real stuff that's going on in their life. But if you have a client like that, who's spinning a tornado about something that went wrong in their design process, or something they perceive to have gone wrong, and you just get sucked into it because you may have your top strength being empathy, you may end up not being able to think clearly and think straight in order to resolve it. You're just getting sucked up into that. And that, to me, as coaches, if what you're saying, if we didn't have that as one of our bottom strengths, we would all need therapy, because we're helping people through so many different situations that are really emotional for them.
Correct. Or we would have to totally guard against it all the time. We'd have to put this constant guard up. And it may show up, if empathy's towards the bottom, as she doesn't do drama. Like, I just don't do drama. I don't like drama. I don't want to. Like, I just want to solve it. If we're going to talk about an issue, let's just solve it and move on. We don't need to keep the issue going. So I'm not in all that. One of my bottom 5, actually my 5th one, was harmony.
Oh, I don't think that showed up for me anywhere.
Yeah, it would have been somewhere in your 34, but Harmony was at the bottom. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I a troublemaker? What's my problem? And what Harmony is really saying is, I'm not going to try to make somebody happy by telling them what they want to hear.
You're not going to
tell the truth.
Okay, that showed up in your bottom.
It's my bottom. In other words, I'm not saying stuff just to make you feel good. I'm not going to hold back so that you can be happy and comfortable.
Yes.
That's what Harmony means. Like it wasn't a big, like that. It was like, I would rather tell somebody, if they're coming to me asking me, I would rather tell you the truth than to make you happy with a lie to walk out the door. Harmony could almost make you, I'm not saying you're a liar, but Harmony could make you feel like you need to keep the peace versus telling the truth and cleaning out the wound. And I'm a clean it out and move on kind of gal. So it shows up in the bottom. I have to choose to be careful with my words, but Harmony is not like, I don't initially think, okay, smooth it over, make it all okay. I'm like, clean it up.
Right.
And so that's another of my.
I think I found mine. Mine was 27 out of the 34.
So it's towards the bottom for you as well.
Yep. Yeah.
And then another bottom one, I can't remember what the term is for it. I'll have to look, but it's
restorative. I have mine up on the thing. So my bottom 34 was empathy. 33 was restorative. People exceptionally talented in restorative theme are adept at dealing with problems. They are good at figuring out what is wrong and resolving it. Mm-hmm. Right. And now it's shocking to me that that's one of my bottom strengths, because I think I'm good at that. But you know what?
But it's just about the way that you initially think of something. It doesn't mean that you haven't, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Mm-hmm. It just means that if you were put to the test to act on complete strength and instinct, it would not be it. Okay. Mine, one of my bottom ones I found, it was adaptability.
Okay.
And what that means is and it's so funny because in a minute we're going to talk about the Myers-Briggs and the personalities. Mm-hmm. One of mine that I am not overly, I'm adaptable, but I've survived 50 plus years. I'm somewhat adaptable. However, I'm not spontaneous in a lot to say, and I told you all this, I have to plan to be spontaneous.
Right. I love that. I have to plan to be spontaneous.
Yeah. I go, okay, today I'm going to be spontaneous. Wherever we go, we go. And then I'm in that mindset and I can do it. But if I've got a plan and if I'm organized and things just throw it all over the place, I have to take a step back, and that I don't usually just go with it. I'll go with it, but I'm replanning and restructuring the whole time because that's just what I do. I think way out and then come back. I can't just turn that off. So it doesn't mean I can't be spontaneous. It just means my brain's initial way of dealing with data is to be very structured, very precise, and very forward thinking.
And let me ask you, if you were to do this test, and Sharon said, let me bring it up on the screen. Sharon said they only gave her top 5. Does that mean she did maybe the free version? Because let me tell you, we all had our credit cards out that night.
We got your credit cards out. There's Sharon, great question. So there's like a $15 or $20 version that gives you your top 5. If you use the same login and go back in, you can unlock the full 34 and it'll charge your card the difference. I want to say it was like another $20-$30, but it'll unlock it. And as entrepreneurs, I truly believe we need to know the entire 34, because the bottom 5, again, it tells me, like, if I can't be empathetic and I need to be empathetic, I need to stop sometimes and catch myself, because I know I can go so quickly and hard sometimes to solve the problem that I'm not in the feels enough for somebody else, especially as I work with women. My son has said to me, Mom, you've ruined me for women because you're so boom, boom, get it done, bam, 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 that when he's with a woman who has more of the feels,
the softness.
Yeah, the softness, like maybe I don't bring to the table quite the same way. He's like, Mom, like, what do I do with all that? It's just different. So it's just knowing yourself. So let's jump back to the top 5 for a minute. What were your top 5?
Okay, we'll say hi to a couple more people, and then we're going to go to my top 5 because I have it on the screen. I was able to sign in really quickly. So hi, Michele. Haven't seen you in a long time. Wendy's here. Hello. Oh, Sharon got it through her work. And yes, you should do it on your own, Sharon, because it really is fascinating. And before we show out my top 5, is it something that if you're working on a certain area that you want to get stronger and you take the test a year later, does it show up different? Or is this the kind of test that, like an IQ test, they say it'll just always come out the same no matter when you take it?
Right. So from what I have been told, it can shift a little bit, but usually your top 10 stay your top 10.
Oh.
So they move around within there. They could based on where you are. But I mean, it is possible to shift some things a little bit. But for me, what I did was once I did it and I looked at my top 5, I bet I did this test 7, 8 years ago. And when I did it, I went, oh my gosh, that explains why I think that way. Like I always wondered, why do other people not see what I see? Why are they not getting this? Like I don't get it. It's so clear. It's right there in front of you. Like, what's your problem? And I, and it makes me sound terrible, but I was almost getting irritated that people couldn't see what I saw when it was so plain to me.
Right.
So then
knowing yours and knowing theirs.
Right. And so that's when I recognized, okay, this isn't that they have a deficiency. This is that I have a strength.
Right.
And they have a different strength. So now what is their strength? And now how do we put them together so that we can move forward? In other words, let them work where they're strong. Let me work where I'm strong. And then together we'll get further, as opposed to going, I can't believe you don't see what I see.
Yes. All right. I'm going to get very vulnerable here and actually share mine on the screen.
Okay.
Somebody was just let me rearrange us so we don't look like long, thin heads. Oh, no, I don't want that on there. Okay. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. So Michele was asking what test we're talking about because she jumped on late. So we are talking about the Gallup Strength Test. It's at gallupstrengthcenter.com. This is my dashboard. So here we go. My top 5. Relator, communication, strategic, activator, and maximizer.
Okay. My top 5 are maximizer, achiever, strategist, relator, and self-assured.
Okay.
So our maximizer is this. We're in the same top 5 for that. And I think achiever. Did you have achiever?
Where do I have achiever?
You had relator.
Achiever's number 12, which is so shocking to me, actually, but okay.
You had relator.
Yes.
And maximizer.
And maximizer.
And you had strategic.
Yep.
We both have those. So we have 3 of our top 5 that are the same. And as we went down to the top 10, we had a lot the same. They're just a little bit different order. So here's something that I learned.
What?
Your Strengths Finder in the order that it is in is almost like your fingerprint. And
is that why they do this on the top? Like this is like my DNA?
It's like a DNA strand. And it is truly, you would be hard pressed to find somebody that had everything the way you've had it. Then when you take your experience and your environment, overlaying your strengths, like if they don't even show up the same way. So strategic may show up one way for you. It may show up a different way for me, but we're both using the ability to be a strategist.
Got it.
So that makes it even richer when you step back and look at it. So the reason that I wanted all of us, we told the story at the beginning, we were all in a house together and we're looking at things differently. And I was like, just take the test. and then everybody's sharing and we're realizing that you, me, Luann, and some others all were like very similar. And the designers, do you remember this? A lot of the designers had some of the same similarities. And theirs has to do with harmony and connectedness and all these other things that allow them to go into a home to do kind of that softer approach that they had. And so it was quite interesting to see almost the 2 little versions of it. But I want to share with your group how we use this. Like I use this in my coaching with all of my clients. I ask everybody to take it. And then we look at how are we building a business based on their strengths. Not based on their bottom 5. If their entire business is built on their bottom 5, they're struggling. and they feel like a loser all the time, or like they can't get it together. We
Right.
hire for those. We start and we build their business processes based on their top 5, and then we hire for bottom 5. And then we start and look for those that have a team, and maybe like, was it Michele or who was it that took the top 5 with work? Sharon. Okay. So then what I'll have them do is go out to their team members and have them do the top 5. And then we can make sure we've got the right person in the right positions with the strengths that they need for the job that they have. We also use it when we're looking to hire. We have them take the top 5 strengths finder to see if their strengths fit with the job that we have open.
I love that. And Wendy is saying the same thing. I'm going back because we're missing some comments. I'll catch up. But she's saying what I was asking, like, if you're working on yourself and you're working on your business and you're looking at some of the strengths you need to be a successful, profitable entrepreneur, can your strengths actually change? Because she feels like hers would be different now.
So I mean, again, I do think they can shift, but here's the deal. When you answer any questions on any test, it really comes down to this. Are you answering based on the truth of where you are or where you want it to be? And so that would be the thing. Are we answering based on, I've been working on this and this is what I really think now? Or is it, if you got pushed between a rock and a hard place, what would your answer be? And then see if it really shifts.
And I have to tell you, the funniest part for me was everyone's like, kind of like, when we were in that house, dispersed into their areas, right, to take the test. But there was still chatter going on with people who had taken it already or whatever. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm flying through this so fast, it's not going to be accurate at all because I'm just picking anything. Wasn't it timed? So I felt like
you have a certain amount of time because they don't want you to overthink it.
Well, I was overthinking it even in that short amount of time. But when it came out, I remember looking at you going, oh, my God, this
is me.
Nailed me. Yet I did it so fast without a lot of focus. I thought that it wasn't going to be accurate at all, but it really was. It's
pretty, I've actually had clients come back to me in tears after taking it because there were things that they thought had always made them different or less than, and they had never seen it as an actual strength. And all of a sudden they understood why they thought the way they thought, why it was a natural way for them. And they sat back and went, okay, I'm not messed up. I'm not defective. This is actually a strength. Now, how do I capitalize on that?
Right.
And I thought that has been a super beautiful discovery process with my clients, is to go, that explains why, like you said, it nailed me. That's me, but it's not bad. You know, how many times do we in our own work beat ourselves up over something we got wrong or struggled with?
Yes.
Or in the workplace the same way. So to actually have a test that doesn't say that you are this, or it's literally telling you everything you're great at.
And I think it was very helpful to have you there who was very knowledgeable in this to interpret it for us, because it's like getting a report card. Instead of going to the top 5 or 6, I went to the bottom. And I'm like, oh, what does this mean? And you were able to explain it all. So we all felt like, oh, okay, we get it now.
Yeah.
So having the book and you being so knowledgeable about it helped us all interpret what we were seeing, rather than look at the one C we think we got on our report card instead of looking at the A's, right? Because you tend to focus on the negative. I remember going right down to the bottom, like, oh no, these are my weaknesses. And you're like, no, it's not a weakness. It's just your lowest strength. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah. I remember when I opened my Full 34, I sent it to my coach. And as I've shared all the time, I coach, and I feel like if I'm going to coach, I need a coach so that I can make sure. So I sent it to my coach, and I was like, I hope you still love me. And she wrote back, and I was like, you probably knew all those. And in some ways, I did know them. I just hadn't quantified them with the word. And at first, I felt the same way, Nancy. I remember I did the 23andMe DNA test.
Oh, I haven't done that.
So I did that because I have multiple autoimmune issues. And so I did that just to kind of get an idea. And I remember when I read the DNA results, it was like, and you've got a marker for this and you've got a marker for that. And I was like, well, crap, I'm probably going to die in a week based on this report. I mean, it was bad.
Oh.
And it was scary. And then I sat back and I looked at all the things that I had great for me. And that's the same way it feels when you look at this. Doesn't mean those markers are turned on. It just means that there is something in your history that is allowed for something, right? In DNA. Right. So it doesn't mean that it's going to happen to you.
Right.
There are things that we can do to prevent disease and promote wellness. It's the same thing with StrengthsFinder. So we tend to go to the bottom to see where are we struggling or where are we not so great. And the truth of the matter is those are there just to give us an indicator that we have to, because if we don't know them, they're in our blind spot. I can run over somebody without working on their feeling. And I try hard to be kind. It's funny, the people that know me now in my older years, like, you're always so kind. And I'm like, you did not know me at 20 and 30. And it wasn't that I was trying to not be kind. It's just you just have an idea and you're just so passionate about getting that idea out that you don't stop and think about how you can say it in a different way. So I have learned from, let's just say, iron sharpening iron with a peer group, that certain ways of self-expression are not in your favor, right? We've all learned that. Like you say something a certain way and somebody looks at you like, excuse me? Right. And you go, okay, I probably didn't phrase that properly. Let me try again. So you learn it. But now what it's done is shown me with words, I need to be aware of that. So I have my top 5 and I have my bottom 5, and it just helps me create awareness so that I still know that I'm not going to take on the weight of the world. But sometimes I have to choose to maybe be a little more empathetic than would naturally come to me in that moment.
Right. And I'm the same way. It's my bottom empathy, right? It's number 34 for me. But I think it really is, listen, you've been through a lot in your life. I've been through a lot in my life. We talked a little bit about stuff that night. And in the end, we're able to compartmentalize. And I think that empathy being number 34 is not the fact that I'm not empathetic or you're not empathetic. It's that we have learned to compartmentalize in order to continue to be able to function and help other people.
Right. And that it is natural for us to do that.
Yes, that's the better way of saying it. It's natural for us to do that.
Right. I'm not forcing it. It's just naturally, it's at the bottom for me.
So we're co-bitches is what we're saying. No, we're not saying that.
Yeah. So, but so let me say this, because I just, again, I want to move on and talk about the next one, because we pulled that one up too. Yes. Our personality test. And we were all, are you an IFT? Are you a ENS? Or what are you?
Yes, and I've taken that many times, but let's talk about that.
So let's move to the next one. Mm-hmm. So the next one that we can just throw out there is from Myers-Briggs, and it is considered a personality test. Right. And I take the one from 16 personalities. So if anybody wants to type that in, it's 16 and then the word personalities. You can Google that. And I think they may even have a free version out there. Here's what I love about it. It adds an extra letter at the end. So where the Myers-Briggs is based on 4 things: mind, energy, nature, and tactics, it adds your identity to the end of it, because it's like you can go on either side of it. So just to throw out a couple of things, I am the executive. I'm an ES, and my guess is you're close. I'm an ESTJA.
Okay, I have it somewhere on my phone, and I didn't pull it up before the broadcast, so I'm trying to find it.
I'm going to talk about mine, and you see if you can pull yours up.
Okay.
So the way that the 16 personalities works is it looks at these personality aspects. The first one is mind, and that says, how do you work within your surroundings? How does your mind work within your surroundings? Are you an extrovert or an introvert? By extrovert, it energy from other people. Introvert, energy by being alone.
And what are you?
I'm an extrovert.
Okay, me too. I found it.
I'm probably in some ways more of an ambivert, because I think my percentage was only about 60% extrovert. So I'm right in that ambivert, meaning I kind of run close to the middle there. So I'm not like way on the extroverted scale where I want to be around people all day. That would drive me crazy. So I am an extrovert. So your first letter, if you do this one, is E or I for extrovert or introvert.
Right.
The next part is it's looking at your energy, and that is how you see the world and process information. And so then you're either observant or you're intuitive. So you either observe and see things to create relationships, or you very much intuit things. You feel them. I am observant.
So
I'm an ES. So at this point, I'm an ES. I'm an extrovert and I'm observant. I'm in my head. I'm thinking.
okay. I'm an N. I'm an EN.
All right. So you're an extrovert, but you are intuitive. So you're on the feeling side of things. You're more on the woo side of things.
Really? Okay.
Intuitive. The intuitive part is, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's bad. The next one is nature, and that's how you make decisions and cope with your emotions. And so there's thinking and feeling. I'm thinking.
I'm feeling.
You're feeling. So I am EST. So I'm an extrovert, I'm observant, and I'm thinking. Let me tell you how I can pick up on this one pretty quickly when I'm with somebody. When they're describing something to me, and I realized this a year ago and I went, oh, the radar went up. I was with somebody and she kept saying, I feel like the next step should be, I feel like we should do this. I feel like, and I kept going, why are you feeling all this? I'm like, I think the next thing I think we need, just my natural self is I think, not I feel. It's not about my feelings. It's just what I think.
Right.
And so that is the separate, which is of course why my empathy is probably at the bottom. I don't have that. But for her, everything was I feel. So extrovert, I'm extrovert, observant, and thinking. You are extrovert, intuitive, and feeling.
Right.
Okay. The next one is your tactics. And that is how you approach work and planning and decision making, judging and prospecting. I am judging. I'm a J.
Me too.
Okay. So that just means we judge. That's more of a head. You're thinking, you're judging what should go. Prospecting is you're kind of feeling your way. You're feeling your way through it. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm ESTJ. So I'm extroverted. I'm observant. I'm thinking and I'm judging. I am all down the left-hand side. You are extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging. Okay.
I don't have my extra letters, even though I know I took the one that gave them to me, but I didn't write them down.
Okay. So I'll read them to you and you can see what you think it is.
Okay.
So the next one in this 16 personalities is the final letter, the fifth letter, and it's your identity. And that says, how confident are you in your abilities and decisions? It's about your confidence in your abilities and decisions. There's assertive and turbulent. So it's either an A or a T.
I would think I'm an A.
Mine is an A, which makes sense because my top 5 strength is self-assured. And did you know across the entire world, the number 34 strength across all people is self-assured?
Number 34?
Across the whole world, self-assured is at the bottom, but it's my top 5. So when I was talking to Darren, doing some of the coaching on the Strengths Finder, he said to me that was so high for me that it's not, you don't see that very often in a top 5. Mm-hmm. And he said that that's what causes people to go, I don't like, they're drawn to that assurance, but they don't know what to do with it because we don't have a lot of opportunity in our daily interactions to deal with people who truly have a strength of self-assurance.
Right.
That was pretty wild to me. So
yeah,
I don't know that I'm assertive. When I make up my mind, I made up my mind. And so, I mean, I'll change it if I get more information. But so this was definitely me. So within this, I'm considered the executive.
Oh, I think I have the answer to that one. Hold on. Let me see if I have.
I
don't actually. ENFJ, does it say what I am?
ENFJ. And then it would have to have an A or a T.
So I'll recognize it. What is an A?
An A is assertive and T is turbulent.
No, but what is the overall category? Logician, campaigner, what is?
Yeah, hold on, I'll tell you.
Because I'd recognize it if I heard it. But people, yeah, everyone's commenting here. Let me catch up while you're looking that up. Let me go back.
Hold on, yeah.
Okay.
Just throw it out there. And there is analysts, diplomats, sentinels, and explorers. Do you know which one of those you are? It is the magician and all that. I can't find it. Let me look and see if I see online real quick.
ENFJ, ENFJA. I'm trying to share this broadcast at the same time. We're multitasking here. What does that mean? How do you figure out people who are better at multitasking or not? Right now, I'm not.
All right, let's look at the type groups.
See, I really believe, and I take this stuff all the time. Over the years, it fascinates me. And I'm not sure why it fascinates me, because it always just describes who I am. Like,
yeah, mine said that I am the executive. And I saw this in here earlier, so now I don't know why I can't find it.
That's all right. This will start me wanting to do this all over again. Let me share this broadcast into my group.
Yeah, but go take it. It's totally worth it. Here it is. There's an architect, a logician. You are E.
I am ENFJ.
All right, let me find an ENFJ and I'll tell you which one. You can see which one of these you are. ENFJA or ENFJT. So I guess it's ENFJA or T. There's a protagonist.
No, I don't think it's. What's the other one?
ENFJA or T both say you're a protagonist.
Then I guess
for ENFJ, that is charismatic and inspiring leaders, able to mesmerize their listeners.
Well, I don't think I'm quite mesmerizing, but I like the description.
Yeah, it's not bad. The executive says excellent administrators, unsurpassed at managing things or people.
I'd say that's more me.
Anyway, again, this is not meant to, it's not a one-dimensional thing. It's just an opportunity to take a personality test to see how you, again, interact with your surroundings, how you see the world and process information, how you make decisions, and how you approach work and planning, and then how confident you are in that. So it's just another benchmark test that can be taken.
And I like this because if you're starting to work, well, listen, when you run a business, you have collaborations with other business owners. You have possibly a staff, or you're thinking of bringing on a staff, and really understanding your personality, I think, is key in hiring a staff and working with other people with different personalities. It's bringing an awareness to it that you may not have had before. So that's why I wanted to make sure we did this show, because it's so important for you to understand yourself so that you can understand how you're interacting with people.
Yes. Again, if I am an extrovert, and I know that I can be, I don't tend to think that I'm overwhelming, but my children can sometimes say, Mom, if we bring somebody home, please don't overwhelm her. I'll try not to overwhelm her. But I'm intense, and I've got questions, and I want to talk about things, and I love that. So far, everybody's been able to handle it, so it's been good. But recognizing that about myself, because I know that I can be intense for some people, I can take a step back, and I can choose to kind of take a diminishing moment for myself to give them some space, especially if I start to recognize they have introverted tendencies.
Yes. Oh my God. I mean,
I don't want to make anybody feel like they just got plowed over. So then I will jump to my bottom 5 and try to start ramping up the harmony and ramping up the empathy and ramping up let's be spontaneous, even if it's not to make the other person comfortable, because I love my children, or I love the people that I'm with, or I care about the people that I'm with. So that awareness allows you, instead of just rushing through what you normally do, to stop and take notice of what the other person's doing. So then that takes us into the DISC profile. Have you ever done DISC profile? Okay.
I've done DISC also. I couldn't tell you what it said though, but yes, I've done them all over the years, and I love them all, but I've never like studied them like you have. And I love the fact that you've done that.
And so the DISC profile is a little bit different. So we've had strengths that talk about your strengths, personalities that talks about your personality and your confidence. Your DISC profile works on how you adapt to the behaviors of others. How do you relate to other people? And so just quickly, the DISC profile is made up. It's like a circle and it's cut in quadrants and it's DISC. The D is for dominance. The I is for influence. S is for steadiness, or some people say support. And the C is for conscientiousness. And so you take this test and it says, where do you fall? Well, I know it's going to be freaky for all of you. I am a high D, which means high dominance. So it just means that I'm very clear and aware of what I want. But then you usually have a secondary supporting, and mine is influence. So I have a dominance, but I also influence people. Mm-hmm. I still have some pieces of steadiness and conscience. Like I'm very much, I edited a magazine for 4 years and published that. So I'm very much about detail, and that's the conscientious piece. I definitely provide support and steadiness in coaching, and that builds up over time. But when you think about it, it's just, and then what's also interesting, let me see if I have it. I don't know if I have that one up here on my screen. Each of these different ones, there is an automatic fear behind every one of them. So,
really?
Mm-hmm. So if you're like a high D, your biggest fear is being taken from. One is not being safe. It's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But there is a fear that shows up based on each of these. A fear of something being taken, removed from them because of the way that they interact with people.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before. I want to take that one again because I haven't taken it in years.
Really so when I have a one-to-one retreat that I do with some of my high-level coaching clients, and we did the DISC profile at our retreat last year, and we had first gone through and everybody had defined all their fears, and they were starting to align with our DISC profiles to go, okay, like I'm a high D and my fear is that somebody's going to steal all my work, or I am a steady person and I'm fearful that I'm not going to be safe, that everything's going to crash around me, or that I'm not going to have a safety net. And you start to see these things because they are just the way we tend to work as humans and go together. But that's another great one, especially with a team, Nancy, because it's about how people interact.
Yeah, I love that. And it'll help you be a better leader and a better boss.
Yes.
If you understand the personalities of each of your employees and how it works with your personality.
That's right. Because then I know I can dial back my D so that I can support them because they're more than, I know how to start adjusting my own delivery style of information to meet them where they are, to get the outcome that we all really want to get.
And it's funny because I hear this and I go, I feel like I do that naturally, adjust, because I have been managing people since I was 24 years old. There were times I had 150 people that I managed. I had managers under me, though. I didn't do them all directly. And I feel like that leadership part for me comes naturally, but yet I'm not sure, right? Because there's always people you can't move the needle with them. You can't get them to do exactly what you want them to do. But I have a bug right in front of me. But I wonder if anything in my personality test would say that piece, at least reading people's personalities, tends to come pretty natural to me.
Well, and again, you remember when I said we're kind of iron sharpens iron with our peer group sometimes? If you've ever, I'm like you, I started managing around 24, 25 years old, and I was managing men who were double my age at the time. And they called me Little Bit.
Well, that's better than the other one I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, they could have called me all kinds of things, but they called me Little Bit. I think I'm only 5'3", if anybody. They all think I'm taller. I guess I come across as taller. I'm 5'3", and I bet I weighed 100 pounds. And so I was a little bit to them. And, but I had to work hard to gain their respect. And, you try things. I'm a high D. I couldn't go in and be dominant with 50 and 60-year-old men in manufacturing. That was not going to work. And so I think some of these things we learn by our surroundings and by our relationships with people. But when we know that, it's kind of like with StrengthsFinder. I know about myself. I mean, self-awareness, they say, is one of the number one traits of successful entrepreneurs, is figuring out who you are, where you're good, where you're not, what you need, and asking for help. That awareness is huge. But when we can then extend that awareness to the people that we're working with, either collaborating with, or our team, to your point, or to somebody that we're speaking with in a group setting, I can usually tell if there's a high D in that group, because they'll just tell you like it is. And then I can tell if there's somebody in there who is a little more conscientious and a little more careful. But it's just that awareness. So my guess is that you probably do have a lot of this. Some of it maybe naturally and some of it learned by years.
I related to your story because when I worked
things.
Yeah, when I worked in banking, I worked with, like you, with a lot of men, double or triple my age. I'm 5'1", and I was 24, 25 years old. And I thought, okay, how am I going to be heard in this group? And that's actually when I became interested in body language, because there was a lot of things you could do with your body language that kind of evened the plane for those interactions. But you're right. It's a lot of what you go through forms your skill. And
you learn the things that work and don't work. And then you start to adjust. So to me, the personality test or these types of strength tests or things, what they're really there to do. Hey, Elizabeth, you can find it. Just Google Gallup Strengths Finder, GALLUP Strengths Finder. And you can also find it in the Solid Foundation Builder. It's in there too. There's a direct link. But when you're going through and you're doing these, it just creates this awareness that you have that you can then stop and go, okay, now I see it. Before, you just kind of, again, you feel it because you've felt being on the right side or the wrong side of the interaction. Now you're starting to have an awareness where you can almost go in, and it's not like you want to walk around with a psychology degree and try to profile everybody. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
But we are talking about being aware of somebody who is maybe introverted versus extroverted, or somebody who likes attention and somebody who doesn't, or somebody who's very conscientious, but somebody who's maybe not as conscientious, but man, they can influence. Like your salespeople are influencers.
Right.
And so you start to go, I need somebody who's an influencer. Well, that's how you're going to go get a salesperson to do that. So you start to make sure that people are in the right jobs to do the right things.
So if you want to put your staff through this, you have to pay. Are there like group rates?
Yeah, for the DISC there is. And you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who's DISC certified, and they'll help you go through it and then interpret the results. There's a Myers-Briggs that comes out that you can do as well if you're trying to do it for a full staff. You can hire people that are, you can do it on your own and just kind of read up and interpret it, or you can go in and, I mean, there are people that are skilled in doing some of this. But there's one more I want to throw out. We got a couple minutes, and it's the one that everybody's talking about these days, and that's the Enneagram.
I have never heard of that one. Tell me about that. Enneagram.
It's ENNEAGRAM, and they are personality types. And it's like a circle with like a star in it, and there are 9 personality types, and it's showing up everywhere. Enneagram. In the word.
I got it. ENNEAGRAM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's all over the place. And this one is newer to me. It's just been out in the last couple of years that we're hearing about it, but there are books about it all over the place. But I'm going to go over the 9 personality types within the Enneagram. And then you can be like an Enneagram 4 with a wing this, and there's all kinds, meaning you have supporting personality types, because none of us are, again, one-dimensional.
Right.
So the first personality type is called the reformer. And let me come up here. They're rational, idealistic, they're principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. The second one is the helper. They are a caring and interpersonal type, and they are demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. The number 3, if somebody says I'm an Enneagram 3, they are the achiever. They are success-oriented, pragmatic. They are adaptive, excelling, driven, and image conscious. I'm a number 3.
I was going to say, I feel like I relate to number 3 so far.
Yeah, I'm a number 3. I've taken the test, and that's what I came out as. Number
I
four.
just have to laugh at Elizabeth for a second because she said, "What, Nancy Ganzekaufer? You've not heard of this?
Right.
Not heard of this."
And number four is an individualist. They're the sensitive, withdrawn type. They are expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Number five is the investigator. It's the intense, cerebral type. They're perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Number six is the loyalist. They are committed and security oriented. So they are very engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Number seven is the enthusiast. They're busy, fun loving, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered.
Okay.
Number eight is the challenger. It's the powerful, dominating type. Self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. My husband might think I'm number eight, but I'm really.
I was going to say some people might think I'm number 8, but I really think I fall.
I might have some wings of 8, but I'm not 8.
But
and number 9 is the peacemaker, and they're easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. And so it's just knowing, where are you? What is your spouse? What is your, your partner? What is I've got one of my clients, she is so into the Enneagram. She gives Enneagram tests to her employees. So she knows if she's coming, I think she's a number 1. And if she's a number 1, she knows what that means. And she wants to make sure that the other people can take it. I mean, you got to be able to work with these people. So very interesting.
So interesting. Now, do you know what each of your kids are? Because I want to give all my kids.
I don't on the Enneagram. I
have their personality types.
I'm guessing. I mean, I can just about tell you the strengths of my children, and I can just about tell you what I think the top 5 and bottom 5 are for my husband. I've been with 35 years, so I think I'm fair to be able to say what I think that is. My oldest son is very much like me, and so I am pretty sure my second son is a little bit more feeling than the first son. Mm-hmm. My first son, I don't even think empathy shows up on his 34. It might, but if it does, it's at the bottom. And my older son, it's much higher at the top. It could easily be in his top 10. So it's been interesting to watch. I keep begging them to take it, and they keep telling me they don't want to take another stupid test. They just got out of college. I'm like, the day's coming. You're going to take it for me. See,
my kids all took, we did it one Christmas.
I thought I should give it for Christmas to my kids. I would like to do an Enneagram test. And
it's like doing the DNA test for Ancestry.com. Just give them instead. But yeah, one of my kids is on the personality which one? ESTJ. That's Kevin.
Okay.
And I don't know what the other ones came up, but we did it one Thanksgiving, and it was all my nieces and nephews and my sisters and stuff, and it was so much fun. So guess what, guys? The holidays are coming, and this is a great exercise to have fun with, because when we did it as a group, it was really enlightening. And what ended up happening, and I think this is a great for your team, is we all started telling stories, because like you said, where we've been and how we grew up and who our parents were and how they interacted and our earlier work experiences all kind of made sense once we saw these tests.
Yeah. And the only 2 that we even talked about that night were StrengthsFinder and the Myers-Briggs. We did the personality test. But you can tell how they all go together. If I've got these traits, they're going to show up in multiple places, but they each give just a little bit of a different spin on how we're each made. And that's why I love it. Yes, the 4 tendencies, Danielle. I am a questioner. That's another one. I'm questioner. What do you know what you are? Type it in if you know. Gretchen Rubin has a book called The 4 Tendencies.
I read that book years ago, and I don't remember what I was. I want to write these things down all in one place so that when I'm having these conversations, I can say, oh, this is what I was.
I remember what I am. Well, I remember that I was a questioner because I did it a couple of years ago when I was first thinking of starting my podcast. And that's when I was like, oh, that makes sense on why I keep asking everybody. I'm constantly asking questions. Tell me about that. Tell me about this. Explain that to me. Where did you get that from? And so when it came up, I was like, oh, there is no way I could be anything but questioner. So yeah, that's another great one to look at, to just understand yourself and how you see the world and interact with it.
I love it. I could talk about this stuff forever. I could take every test multiple times, and then I need to just find a way to store them so I know where to find them over and over again. But I definitely
again, we don't want to overwhelm. If we're looking at using these, let me just say this: if you're looking at using any of this as a test for employment and for hiring, don't put all the weight on this test, on whichever one you choose, and please don't overwhelm them and give them 42 tests to take.
So
choose something. Choose the one that you think fits the most with what you have to do and the job that you have and what you're looking for, and then let that be enough. But don't overwhelm. I mean, 4 or 5 of these at one point would be overwhelming, but they are very widely used to help people make sure that they've got the right people in the right positions. And it's also a great team building skill. So if you've got a firm and you have multiple people, choosing some of these and then having them sit and talk about it, like you said, Nancy, it actually helped us understand each other and to see. I know that there was one point, Luann and I were having a conversation, Luann Nagara, over the last few months, and I was asking for something or saying something, and I just said, I'm actually working in my strategy strength. And so I just want you to know the reason I'm asking is the strategy part of me is yelling so loud, I can't not say this. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me a way to express why it was so important to me and why it was so at the front of my mind and maybe not at the front of hers. Something else was at the front of hers. And so it's nice when you understand it to know, I'm working out of, and one time I said to her, I've got some suggestions for this. I'm working out of my maximizer, because maximizers take it, make it bigger and better and blow it up. Right. And so, but just recognizing that about yourself gives you the ability to frame it in a way that others can maybe relate to it or take the information in without being offended.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you could say this is coming from this part of my personality and I need to say this. I love it. I love everything about it. I've always been fascinated by personality tests. Thank you for coming on today. I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, your podcast, what you offer, and if you're providing any kind of link for them today.
Sure. Thank you, Nancy. So my website is scarletthreadconsulting.com, and you can find everything there. My podcast is Profit is a Choice, and you can get that anywhere you catch podcast. And a couple of things, like Nancy, I'm a coach. So I do a full business coaching for interior designers. And if you go to my page, scarletthreadconsulting.com/freebies, FREEBIES, I have 3 free downloads that are all about financial planning and setting up financial goals and a checklist and all those things that should be able to help you. And you're welcome to reach out through the website. Contact me if you have any questions.
Love it. Okay, so I will address one other thing that people say to me all the time, like, why do you have other coaches on your weekend wind down? Or why do you have other coaches in your group? And I'm like, because I truly believe that you need to work with the person who you relate to the most, their messaging, the way they work. And I think this personality tests show that we can all, Michelle's a great business coach for interior designers, and so am I, but you need to work with who you feel you can work best with. So I never have an issue having other coaches on my show or being on other coaches' shows, because I think that it's most important for you as business owners to work with someone who you feel can take you to the next level. So whether it's me, whether it's Michele, it's all good, because it's about you making sure that you're profitable and living a balanced life, right? Do you agree, Michele?
No, I do. And I mean, you've been on my podcast the same way. And we've done other opportunities like this together. But here's the thing I also think about. There may be a time that I'm a better fit for somebody, and then later down the line, you're the better fit for them. So it doesn't mean that it's one size fits all the time. And people are in different places and at different points. And so, I'm sure that I've worked with people that have worked with you, and you've worked with people that have worked with me. It's just the way that it happens.
Yes.
And it's totally okay. It's totally cool. And just, it'd be like saying 2 designers can't be friends, because people might be confused.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. No one designer could take every home if they all showed up at one time and said, fix me. And we can't work with every business owner that shows up at one time either. So I think there's plenty of work to go around, and as they say, your vibe attracts your tribe. So I think everybody will find their way.
I love that. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for Michele from Scarlet Thread Consulting. Go check out her website, get her freebies. I'm Nancy Ganzekaufer, business coach to interior designers and other creative entrepreneurs. Thanks for being here, guys. And I will see you next week on Weekend Wind Down. Have a great weekend. Bye.